Okay, here we are, and there was one we were reading from the blurb. There was also some notes in the chorus down below it. He writes like this, and we're really just as one paragraph that we're going to do, and then we're going to go into the Mitzvah, the higher part, the upper part. Behine b'sefer emes the Yaakov. So we're at the top of the left column. He says al idra zuta. Bir de Osius Yaakov, he says over there, Haim Bechinas Kalim Ein Sham. So you would think that was true of all letters, because that's what we understand. But Amor Yuvan, so according to what's said over there, we can understand this, the Kroim Kalim Bekeben Shehim Bechinas Makomos. Now that was a word that he used up above, in a three different words to describe the situation, because they're actually locations. Shemeir became Oros Elyonim, that in fact they're intermediary between the lower worlds and what's coming up above, and it shines into the upper lights. Pneumistic lights means that Mekedem, Mekodem. He said, Emes the Yaakov, Mazik Sham V'Zelashon, here's the conclusion. He said, Bechinas Yaakov, we're going to talk about this, I guess, apparently, since the last time we were speaking about the nose and the Pratashka, and we were talking about the concept of Bina. Now you have two other letters here. He's Eric Anpen, and refers again to Zaldashon of Bechinas Yaakov that is found in Eric Anpen. That's the very top of Eric Anpen, I guess. The Anpen, Haim Oros Gemuros, they're just pure lights. El Shadagabech Penimios Eric Anpen, but if you look past that, and you look in deeper, I guess, if you mean Penimios Eric Anpen would be Atik Yomim. Shehu or Godel, which is a tremendous God, or Godel, which was in other words, the light that is really very pure of the light of Ein Sof, which is very close to nothing. Nekroim Eloha Osias B'chinas Kalim. As a matter of fact, they exist only in mind. It's not something that's understandable except by us being able to picture it in our inner mind, and that's really where it's at. Godel Nekroim Eloha Osias B'chinas Kalim. They're called Kalim. But the fact is that don't think that there's some more physicality than that. It's just that they are complete and total lights. But tachlis hazachos, and they're very, very refined, almost completely transparent, and that is his description of this. Now let's go on and let's look a little bit more. Let's start at the top. The first thing was we had this word the katvin. So that's unusual, two letters. Exactly what do they mean? So it means like plucking, something like that. So let's see what he says. Besoch hagolgolas de Eric Anpin. So this kitvoy de kadvin, he says inside of the skull of Eric Anpin, berucha or beruach hayotza machachotem, and with that also it's going back down to what we learned in the last section. Srira de masculine. Is bound together there. There's a little note on that. I hadn't really looked it up. So he says Sririn the masculine. There's a binding. That's where I understand it, of that maskala that we've talked about in the Idris. This is at the balance scale. Now where are we over here? We're inside. Remember, something I was saying like this. I saw the tiv that he wrote that even in the Avsak Ta'ak, there you have gestation takes place, and here we're talking about the same kind of idea. Over there's Srivan de masculine, that the concept of the balance scale of the three lines, which is Yaakov, are found there. What is the maskala? He said, well, you know what the maskala is? It's the middle line, it's das. So also known as, so you have this phrase Yaakov. So Yaakov meirin misantrim osius Yaakov. So he says that this rucha that we're talking about, I guess blows down meirin misantrim osius Yaakov. It shines into them. He says crowns them. I'm not really sure what he means by crowning, but I guess you mean go from the top and the bottom of it. Looking at it that way, maybe. Bekruma davira, and he said bekruma davira of the nigbe hachotim. Uvashisha kitzvos deguf Eric Anpen Kamoshi is Boyer, as has to be explained and will be explained. So now we're just saying that this Yaakov, once again, it comes from the Kruma Davira. It comes from which is an extremely pneumistic understanding that we have just put our imaginations to it. He said the Vira over Neka, the Choitiv, and also the nostrils. And then he says in the body of Eric Anpin. So he says that represents Yaakov, really. So, right, we can hear that. So he said, now let me talk about a little more detail. Yud So let's talk with the first letter. The first letter is a Yud. So what am I doing here? Let me see. Quote, turn the page, move my phone a little bit here. Okay, let me just go down a little bit more here. Try to get focused. This Kitra, Datika. Now, word kitra still don't have exactly what he wants to mean to this word. Does it mean, he said this atacha bekitra datika, which sounds like the word keser. But let's see. Os yud elyon misater. Yeah, he said bekiter the erikanpen. So he says it's some kind of a crown on the top of the head of erikanpen. And explains like this. Heichon makom os yud elyon. Where do we find this os yud elyon? Now, what he's asking us to do is to picture this in our mind. Mahu inyan the kitter. What's this kitter that we're talking about? So he says, it's the upper covering. It just calls it a crust. I'm not sure exactly what that could possibly mean in spiritual space, but he says a covering. Ki os yuda elyon, shamarnu ki krum ha'elyon ha'saisem es ha'mochstimah. That's what it does. It closes up the mochstimah. Ki os yuda elyon, shamarnu ki krum ha'elyon ha'saisem es ha'mochstimah. The izdakech, which becomes very, very refined, or lev'ravakrum hazeh nizdakech. So nizdakech, the grammar of that word is that something causes it, like to become more zach. The murov hazikuch, and because of this, ola kitor muchas dimor. So now this sounds like the word kitor means, here he means smoke, or some kind of smoke. Let's say smoke, or something going up. Oh, the keter of the mochstimor, the eriganpen. So you have this keter now starts rising up from the mochstimor, the eriganpen. Let's read it again. He says that the krum that covers over the mochstimor. He says the merov zakichos is so unbelievably refined. It's like everything passes through. I don't know what he means by refined yet, but I mean almost transparent, like not there. All the keter b'muchstimor, and then some kind of a vapor comes from it, a smoke. Derek anpen b'yotza derek akrum, and it goes out through this crust. So he says it's an interesting thing about what they say about the chochmas timor, because the chochmas timor to me is more physical than, because it's a second in order, or it's behind the order of the kruma. So how is it that the kruma therefore which is less than it, is less substantive, can cover it? How does it cover it? Or how's my understanding? I still don't quite understand it. So v'yotza derek krum, and then through the krum now comes out this kito. Haketer rabezecha b'chu sod ha'aras chochma dekeser hanikras avira dachya. So going through this, because I thought that the mochas timor was the chochma. And he says here, but maybe it's Chochmas and Chochmas. So it's a Haketer Hazeh, who's sod ha'aras Chochma the Keser, Hanikra Viradakya. So he says this Viradakya goes past, goes through. It sounds like it's going backwards towards the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. But he says it goes through the crust, and it becomes a Viradakya. So a crust is more than a avir. More physical. So he said, nikra zecha b'chakrum b'shem kruma davira. That's why it's called that. And he says, going on a little bit more, v'sasim amnam ikra ha'or shal ha'mochas dimor, the main part of the light of the mochas dimor, nishach b'daim sasam, but it remains still closed up in there. So what's he saying? He's saying, so we had said, I mean, previously I thought from the Idras and I understood that the Mukhas Dima is the source of Chachma. I'm not saying he's saying in steer to that. He's saying that the Keter comes out from the Mukhas Dima, which is covered over by the cross, the Kruma, and then it passes into the Iberi law, and he says that's whatever that is, whatever that light is that managed to make through that, is Chachma. He said, so he said the Nishra Adaim Sasa, but the main part of the Mochas Dima is still closed. But Omer Odin says furthermore, Hey law, this upper hey. So we talked about before this Ata Berucha the Nukra the Bardashka. So this phrase that where he says that it crowns. So I mean it comes into the very top. I guess he means that's by understanding it. The is Ata Berucha the Nukra the Bardashka. So it really crowns or penetrates from the very top to the bottom of the nukva de bartashka, of the nostrils, the nafik lahachia that's going out. That is the source which we saw before. That's the life source itself. Os he elyon. So this upper he, misata berucha b'shecha v'nikva lachoitim. So this upper he, right? It becomes crowned with the ruach of the nitva hachotin de erikanpen. And Masham yotza v'nimshach ruach lemata, and that's where the ruach starts now be penetrating down towards us. They hachios as zer anpen. And what's the ultimate goal here in Itzilus? Is to bring life to zer anpen, to get to the place of yichud along the path. V'ha'inyan hu shenikvera v'chotin de erikanpen hemsod os he ha'elyon de erikanpen. So that now we're talking about the next letter in the Yaakov, which is the K, the erikanpen. And he says of nikovim elu over ruach elyon. So from these openings comes this upper ruach, comes through that. Okay, period. So that was something that we dealt with in the last sentence from the Idra, from the Sifra de Tzniota. Now we want to get to the last letter, which is the letter Vav. It says furthermore, this Vav ilo botzinu de gardenusa is a botzinu de gardenusa. Os Vav elyon shuhu b'bnimil shisha kitzvos de erikanpen. So this Vav, this upper Vav that we're talking about, where do you find this Vav? It refers to the penimius of the shisha kitzvos de erikanpen. Now, why did he say penimius? Why didn't he just say that it refers to the Vok of Zeranpen? But he says the penimius of Zeranpen. So we understand of the penimius of shisha kitzvos de erikanpen. I'm sorry. So he says, in other words, it would be the Zeranpen of erikanpen. So he says of the shorsha b'das b'keser. Where does it come from? It comes from the das and keser. He says of the chanikra butzine de kardenusa. Let me find this over here, which is called by that name. 1 second. Okay. So he said, why is it called the butzine de kardenusa? He said, mitzad Gevurus the das, because of the did I get this right? Because of the Gevurus the das. Now we have to understand what that means. I don't know yet, except that the butzin de the kardenusa, which is a flame, let's say, or something. I don't know exactly what we want to say about it. Represents Gevurus. The Gevurus of the das. The is ate besitroi. What does that mean? It sounds like it's crowned in its place or in its side. Os vav shal das. The spash beguf erikanpen. So the letter itself spreads into the body of erikanpen. Mis anter b'shisha kitzvos elyonos, and so he comes and makes a tikkun, or crowns, once again, begins from the shisha kitzvos elyonos shebeshorish hadash, which is really where you find the root of das. And there's a lot to be examined here, and Metz Hashem will get a chance to do that tomorrow. And let's go to the next shir and make a mark here and stop that.